Okay, so this is sort of I would say this is sort of how I've always approached things. And I'm gonna bring in golf here because I've gotten into golf in the last few years. And another sort of endeavor that is like requires a lot of time and a lot of attention. Now, I think in everything there are ways to sort of improve, study, train, practice, whatever you want to call it. I don't think music or like anything you get into is any different, especially if it's like sort of faceted. There's multiple things you sort of need to do, whether you're a business owner or you're a music producer, right?
Right.
So I would say like if you have this like kind of complex thing like the golf swing can be, or the game of golf can be, right? There's the swing is not the same for every club, and like your approach on every shot is not the same, and every hole is not the same, and no golf course is the same, right? So there's all these different things. I think it's breaking it down and focusing on like one thing, and like having a consistent schedule to focus on that one thing until you sort of feel better with it or proficient with it. And, I guess applying it to like music, one thing I would do is like, I would carve out time to only work on sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even get more detailed than that. It was like, I'm not going to just like sit down with a synth and like create some random sound, because that I would do that. And then I would find like my sound that I made was not as good as the presets that would be in the synth. Right.
Right.
So what I would do is I would like take like pop songs or like dance songs that I really liked and be like, oh, I'm going to remake that sound in that one part of the record. And that, I think, helped me get a really good sense of like, oh, this is how the synth works. That's how you make that sound. That's how you sort of make it do this, and that's what I would focus on in those sessions. And like, I would build that out over a month or so and be really try to be as disciplined as possible in following that. Other times it would be, we're going to just work on drums. We're going to just work on organizing my template or organizing where all my files are so that I can be fast, or like, I just am familiar with the sounds in here, because like sometimes it's like, you don't want to sit down necessarily to create and be like, I don't know where anything is. I don't know. You kind of want to have that inspiration. So it's like finding stuff that inspires you, whether it's a record to sample or sounds in your library. Go through and get familiar with that stuff, and then like put it in its own folder so that you're like, you have this master folder of inspiration. You cannot possibly not be inspired when you sit down, right?
Right.
So that's how I would say is like the biggest thing is like, I'm a big systems person. I love processes because I think that that's what matters. It's not the end result. It's the process, because if you refine the process to be perfect, like, I mean, not that you're going to have that or achieve that, but you will certainly have a better result than if you don't put that same focus on the process that leads to the result. Right. So like, I would always break down everything I've done to like, all right, what are the steps here? What do I need to improve on? What is lacking? What needs more attention? I mean, that's how I approach golf right now. It's like, I'm just gonna work on chipping because my chipping sucks.
Yeah.
Like I need to be better there. So like, that's, I think, and look at like, I mean, this is now sort of getting a little too lofty, inspirational, but I mean, just like look at the best in anything, sport, creative endeavor, like, they got there through a process. So like, break down what it is. What is the smaller details of this that need to be refined that build this product, which like for DJs and music producers is like a banging track that everyone wants to play. What is it? Break that down. Get analytical to a point where like maybe you wouldn't anticipate some other person would get detailed and analytical about. Like, try and figure out all this shit and copy. I'll just end with that. Like, I think learning from other people is the biggest thing you can do. And the best way to do that is by essentially like recreating their work, because you can figure out what it is that makes that record sort of tick. Once you know what makes a good record tick, especially like hits. Yeah. When you figure that out, then you sort of have the blueprint, and then it's just like do you have the skill set to essentially do it yourself from there?
Well, just listen to David Guetta. He says it's the melody. Just make a good melody. It's easy. No, I do remember when we first, started, hanging out and working on music. I do remember you telling me about that was kind of your early days process about like just figuring out how to recreate sounds and songs. I didn't know the level of detail that you spent like actually dedicating time to like really focus on one seemingly small piece of the puzzle, but ultimately that ends up contributing to the rest of it, because I've heard the sound you make. I hear the drums and all the different layers you put on songs, and it's quite impressive. And that's what I think makes you such a polished producer is because you took the time to do all that stuff and really study and become a master of your craft. So you say master of none, Jake, but you're a master of some things, let me tell you.
I'm a master of processes. That's, I think, what it is. Like, I firmly believe I could do anything as long as because I've learned how to learn. You know what I mean? That's sort of,
wow, that's
I guess,
deep.
my mentality.
That's a good soundbite. I've learned how to learn. That could be your book too. Learning How to Learn by Jake Clavette.
Learning How to Learn, a foreword by Simon Sinek.
Yeah. You can read the Mamba Mentality. I mean, yeah, there's so many greats out there who you can really study from across a variety of practices and functions. So thanks for sharing those pieces of wisdom.